Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Gear Talk. That's right, the Lancer's back and the Lancer's staying. Every single time I say it, it's gonna keep happening. I just gotta remind you because I need to remind myself, basically. That's why. So, welcome to another Gear Talk. It's another Thursday, which means we're talking about gears every 5 o'clock, every other Thursday. So, what are we talking about today? Well, we are coming to the very end of the Gabe's Convoy discussion series. That's right. We're finally coming to the end, the crescendo of it all, the second to last video of the entire series. And just like the Hidebusters, I have for you today what are my thoughts, or what do I think, or what were my feelings towards Gears Tactics. So, much like Gears Hivebusters, or Gears 5 Hivebusters, as it's more relatively known, basically, what were my thoughts on it? What did I feel? What did I think of going into the game the first time I ever played it? What do I think of it in general? My thoughts on it wise, there's a lot of things to talk about. Like, you have the story of it. You have the gameplay, because it's the first time ever for Gears of War to go like an XCOM-styled gameplay for it. So it was a very different step they ever took for this. And there's really a lot to say about it, because not only that, but we got pretty much this entire game introduced all new characters, or at least characters that were introduced but never fleshed out, for instance, like Ukon. And yeah, I feel like just going over it quickly and just talking about it is a good way just to give my interpretation of things and how I felt towards everything Gears Tactics-wise. Starting off, just like a general feel of talking about the game, I know the last time, I don't remember, that was like a year ago when I did the Hivebuster one. I don't really have anything scripted or anything. This is really just my thoughts and feelings towards what I thought about Gears Tactics. I don't really have any categories made up. I just kind of want to talk about it. I guess if I do categories like story, gameplay, overall feeling, community feelings, maybe something like that. I guess we could try that. I guess starting off, let's just talk about the story in general of Gears Tactics and what we got from it. I thought it was very solid. I thought the idea of going over what a lot of people in the community wanted was like a flashback. We go back in time and take a look at some events that were kind of jumped over. When we start Gears of War, the franchise, our first time going through Gears of War, the original, or Gears Ultimate, it is 14 AE. Time has already jumped forward by quite a bit. The only time we got something before that was Judgment, and that was also something I think story-wise was pretty solid. It was really nice to see, like, okay, this is what everything, like, what everyone was up to, what was going on. 1 AE, 1 year into the events, here's what's going on. It was nice to see, like, we had references to things that happened, like, in the overall world, like the hammer strikes that happened because of Prescott. That happens in the game. So it was nice to finally see what that was like for people who were, like, trying to bunker down or anything like that. Like, there you go. Like, that's what happened. Like, cities were destroyed, and you saw what happened when they escaped from some of the lasers and were able to hide in a bank vault, which I guess that's your go-to to surviving a world-ending apocalyptic laser attack, so there you go. I thought it was really nice. Like, we had a bunch of events and characters that were talked about. Like, for instance, we have Sid. Sid's brought up, and Sid has, like, connections to, like, past events, like the New Hope facility, which we get a lot of stuff touched on for that. We get a lot of stuff touched on the Locusts and how they were early on. The only thing we ever got for that, again, was, like, Judgment, and in 4 when we had Hoffman's flashbacks. That's all we really got. So it was really nice to see that tackled and covered. It was really nice, I thought, to see more Locust leadership involved. Like, we have Ukon. Ukon is a big thing in general because we've seen him in the Rise of Rom comics, but this is the first time we saw him fleshed out and brought into the gaming world itself instead of just the comics. So we got someone from like the extended universe brought into the main focus. I thought it was great. We had more of Kate's lineage looked into. Honestly, this is just me. This is just how I felt about it. I didn't really care about that. In fact, and I want to talk about the characters really, but we'll touch on Gabe right now. I was honestly dreading when they introduced Gabe Diaz as a main character we're going to be playing as. Like, he's in the books already, but I dreaded having to actually play as him because I didn't read that far into the books, and I still haven't yet gotten to Gabe's stuff. But I was not a fan. I didn't like the idea of covering more of Kate's people and having them as main characters because as many people know, I don't like Kate. I really do not like Kate. I don't care for her. And the one thing this game did, it did 2 things for me, actually. The 2 things it did. The first was, it made me appreciate Gabe. Gabe is actually a good character. He's actually very well done. He's well written. I enjoy him. I enjoy the idea of his past and how he was, like, covert ops and did a lot of things behind the scene missions for Prescott, and he had a heart and a soul and actually cared about what he was doing and just left it all to work in the motor pool. I like that. I like where his story went on to him becoming the leader of pretty much his own outpost when the Stranded happened. He led Stranded, but then when everything ended, the time of peace began. He was basically the precursor to what the Outsiders became. Now, all Stranded were, but he was honestly the one setting up a community for himself and his people. He was an outsider before the Outsiders happened. I thought was great. The second thing this story did, it made me appreciate the fact that, like, I don't know, like, Kate's not a 100% lost cause. Like, the reason she's like this is kind of like Reyna. I won't lie, wasn't the largest fan of Reyna because it just gave me heavy Kate vibes. But it wasn't as bad as what we had with Kate, so I can live with that. We might as well talk about the characters. Let's talk about it quick. Like, the story I thought was very well done. We got to travel to different parts of the world, but the characters were also a very big thing. In this game, I really love the fact that, like, everything was customizable. Like, not only, like, what your characters had for weapons, but the characters in general. Aside from the main characters we get, everyone you recruit is basically customizable free-for-all. I do have some gripes with it. I'm a very heavy customizing person. When it comes to games you can customize, you need to go full Monty on it. I believe 100% everything needs to be customized. I believe that the game did good, but it could have done better. I think that when you have customizing, you should be able to, and this is my own gripe, I'm very picky with this, like if you unlock what's a good way to put this, a white tall male in the game, you can only customize the white tall male. You can't really change it to a female. You can't really change them to like anything you want. It has to be the white tall male you're working with. So if I want to make myself in the game, as you can tell, I'm a 6'1" white Caucasian individual. I have to find a random white Caucasian individual that I pick up that fits like the body style I have and I can use, because you do have thinner characters, larger. So I believe if you really want to do heavy customization, you got to open the full spectrum for what you want to do. That's how I see it. At least, I'm very particular with my customizing. If I want to make, like in my playthrough I did for the channel wise, and my own personal one I wanted me, but for the playthrough I wanted to make my friends. To make my friends, like I have friends of all different nationalities, and I have to find those nationalities to make them fit. If it's a female individual, it has to be a female, I find. That's just how it works. And, I feel like you could have done more. I felt like when it comes to the weapons, guns, and everything, I thought customization was very on point. For what they did first time ever, it was good. Obviously, more options are always better, but I thought it was really nice. I thought that when it came to the main characters we get, and we can finally go into them now, I thought we had a really good draw of everybody. I don't think there was anything that was wrong. Michaela was really well done for her character. I think Sid was very well done. I think his background and everything was nice. Gabe, I thought, was extremely good. Marcella and Tyrone, I'm going to mention. Yes, I think they could have used a lot more spotlight, but they were fine. The only one I ever had a big problem with was Reyna. Reyna, I feel you could have done a whole lot more with. You had a lot more options you could have gone in with that. Like, for instance, Reyna is introduced, and there's a lot of spoilers in this, and I'm going to say it now for spoilers. Reyna's introduced at the very, very end of the game. Like 2 to 3 missions before the ending of the game, you get Reyna. And Reyna comes in, I'm Reyna, I know where Ukon is, I want to kill him too, I'm now a part of the main team. I think there's so much that could have been done. You could have introduced her earlier, had so much more character development. They tacked her on at the very end, and I didn't think it was good. It's like I played like dozens and dozens of hours, like more than dozens, like dozens, and I'm just now getting Reyna, and she's a scout, and I can barely do anything with her in general. I'm not a big fan. I don't like that. What else? Like, the characters, yeah, it was good. I think Reyna could have used work. What else? Let's talk about the game. The game itself. Let's talk about gameplay mechanics. So, the gameplay of Tactics I really, really enjoyed. I was one of the only people in the past when Halo Wars first came out, the original Halo Wars, and everyone got it, and I remember, little side story, we'll get back into Gears, but don't worry, we're in Halo right now for a few moments. I remember when I first went to my favorite store, it was called Small Mart, best store I ever went to in my life, greatest place in the world, spent all my weekends there, and when I was in high school, of course, when I got to college, out of business. It sucks. Greatest place in the world. But I went there, and I would always buy a new game now and then because I like playing video games, and I had a large collection. I started my collection then. And what I did was I would go through and get games, and I came across Halo now and then. I played it. Halo's fun. I got Halo Wars. And, when I brought it up to the main guy behind there, let's say his name's Mitchell for right now. Let's say Mitchell. Mitchell would be like, hey, so you're aware, this isn't a normal Halo game. We've had a lot of people come and return this. This isn't normal Halo you're buying. And I'm like, oh, no, that's fine. On the back, it looks like it's turn-based. And it wasn't turn-based. It was real-time strategy. But I was like, it looks like it's okay. And I got it, and I loved it. It was so amazing. I got XCOM, years and years later. I got XCOM. That was amazing. And, it really gave me those feelings again. It was a lot more like XCOM, but I'm like, this is so good. This is what I want. A tactical style. Put your mind to it. And it was so good. I loved it. The gameplay I thought was solid. The turn-based was very well done. I think the only gripes I would have, again, this is the first time they've done it, so you have to give them a lot of slack. I think for what they did is good. In my mind, if they were to make a sequel, really introduce more enemy types. We got a good amount, but introduce more. Variants of the Locust. We got a lot of the basics we got, but variants aside from the juiced up Zealots you have for the Cantus do a lot more. The Locust, they don't all have to look similar. Make them all look a little different, even though the same style for Grunt or Grenadier or anything like that. Definitely shake it up a bit. I thought it was good though. The only things I had a gripe with is there were two things. There's two major things. One small, one major, I should say. First off, there are bugs. This game, there are some bugs that happen that it's just, you glitch it out, you're kind of done. At one point in my story playthrough I did for the channel, we had a situation where my best buddy in the world, Baryonyx Huntress, we went through with her and we did everything, we had her character. She got stuck in a potted area because she got blown back by a grenade, I believe, or a ticker, and she got stuck. She couldn't move. So I was like, this is bad. She's going to die unless we finish the game. We finished and she was able to live, but she no longer had the ability to move on the board anymore. She was done. Movement was gone. I think she could still fire, maybe, but she could not do movement. So there are bugs like that that can happen now and then. And again, it's a first time. You're not going to get everything ironed out your first attempt. That's just a fact. The other thing that's very large to talk about is the game only has roughly about 3 bosses. There are only 3 main bosses you deal with, and throughout the bosses you will notice there are a bit difficulties with each one. The first 2 are not that bad. Once you get an idea of what you're doing, it's okay. The third boss in the game, and this is a spoiler warning, the very final boss against Ukon and the Hydra is extremely, not even broken. The difficulty spike is through the roof. You're going from a 5 out of 10 to a 30 out of 10. The moment you go against the Hydra, it's done. For anyone who has played, you need to understand, it is, in my opinion, the biggest difficulty spike in the entire series. You have Rom in the original, when you have, Insanity or anything, Insane mode, he's hard. This is, you play normal mode, you're going to have a hard time. I did this and beat him Insanity, normal mode, I did that. The channel-wise, I did it the first time, I hit a button mash up and mix up, and I had to restart it. The preceding battle after my first time beating him, I believe that took me 3 to 4 hours. Constant playthroughs of trying to beat him and reloading. And I finally beat him when I had to turn him to easy mode just to finish. Because it was in the afternoon and I started 9 in the morning. It took a long time to defeat Ukon. He is hard. That Hydra is insane. The biggest things I would say is fix out some of the bugs for number 2. Add more customization, I would say. And for the love of God, if you have a difficulty spike like that again, I will literally break my television. So that's really all I have to say about that. That's my thoughts. Just my off-the-cuff thoughts about everything that went on. I think it's really good. I think the game itself, it's would it be on the upper or lower tier of Gears games? That's hard to say. Because there's so many good ones that go on the high tier and there's so few that are on the low tier. I would have to say, yeah, it's probably on the high tier. Probably, I don't remember where I put it on my tier list. I'm making a tier list of everything after I finish it. It's either high B, the highest B, or it's probably low A. But it's definitely good. There's nothing really wrong with it. Aside from the difficulty spike that really turned me away. Oh, I remember. This game is a B. The biggest gripe I have with the game, aside from that difficulty spike, which was brutal, aside from the few bugs, which are okay, there is one thing that is worse than all. The game forces you to do side missions. There are points in the game where you are forced to go through and do a side mission. I'm seriously, this is the biggest thing that drives me nuts, is that you're playing the game, you're doing main missions, and at some point the game's like, oh, we need time to figure this out, or oh, we need to go doing this, or oh, our people need help. So you have to stop everything and go do a side mission. It's not even a side mission because you're required to do it. The only difference is you get to choose which one you want to do, and you're forced to go and do a side mission. Literally, this game is like this. How long would you say? Let's say roughly like 30 hours if you're gonna do like an average run. If you're not gonna like do a quick right through, it takes a long time. The game is the longest Gears of War game. It's the longest one. If you take out the mandatory side missions, this game is like 12 to 16 hours long. Like, you literally cut out 10 hours. More than 10 hours if you take out the random goddamn side mission. Not even random. They force you to do them. Side missions. It is the dumbest thing in the world. If in the sequel, make side missions, literally side missions, you win. That's fine. If you have like timed story events, like you have to do it by this time, and you can only do so many side missions if you want, there you go. You are forced to, that's not a side mission. You're forced to do it. So, yeah, that's my biggest gripe. Yeah, B rated. That's what I put it as. It's a B because of that. Like, I can't put it as an A because they flubbed it so badly with side missions. Now that I got that out of the way, that's my full thought process when it comes to Gears Tactics. I really like it. I really do like it. I do have some issues with it now and then, like I want more customization, but that's just like a personal thing. The game itself and the way it's made, it's very well done. I think it's a great step in the right direction for Gears, especially after 5 and everything that happened with Gears 5. I think this was like a really nice way to kind of be like, chef's kiss to continue the story. It's like, hey, we do have this other medium we're going to try. It's the tactical based version, and I think it flows well. Some reviews I saw that I really agree with, it's like the idea of Gears of War and like the war aspect and the cover fire aspects and everything that like really made Gears a well-known thing. It's like seamlessly transitioned and very well done. I think it is, and I agree with it full-heartedly. Yeah, I would recommend this one to anybody. Like, honestly, like Hive Busters I'd recommend. This one I would recommend. There's very few Gears games I would never recommend. I can only think of one I could really say, like, I don't recommend, but you still kind of have to play it, and that's 5. Like, for anyone who's looking for, like, anything else, like, if you played all the games and you played 5 and, like, you had to look at them all, I would say, aside from the story, you ain't missing much with 5. Like, it didn't really capture me too much, but Tactics did. If they make a sequel, which I hope they do, they have so much story they could do with it. I think you really could throw a lot of things in there. Like, it's 1 AE is the events of Tactics. Like, you have, like, 16 years of war left. Like, think of all the things that Gabe and them were up to while they were in Vascar, or if they went back to Afira, like, all of that. There's so many possibilities. But that's just my overall thoughts, top of my head. So, I want to thank you all for watching. I want to thank everyone for making this possible, and thank the patrons for making this possible. When we come back, one more. This is the second to last. One more video and we're all finished up. I got Gabe Diaz to finish it all off, the leader of Gabe's Convoy. I know there's a lot of stuff involving the books. I'm going to get as much info as I can from some friends of mine and get more information. But you do need to understand, like, I am a ways back in my reading. Even if I started just hardcore reading, I'm not going to make it in time to do his video. But yeah, Gabe's going to finish us off, and I think it's going to be a good video. And that'll be the end. We'll have our finale coming up in 2 weeks. I'll see you all in the next one. Later!
Bye.